AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding at my house after she promised it would be simple. This is going to be long, so bear with me. I, 33F, have a sister, Emily, 30F, and we've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child. Everything she did was perfect in my parents' eyes, while I was always difficult or too sensitive. Despite that, we've had some good moments, and I thought as adults we'd be able to get along better. Last year, Emily got engaged to her fiancé, Daniel. She's always been very vocal about wanting a small, intimate wedding because she doesn't like big crowds. That's where the problem started. About 6 months ago, she called me out of the blue and asked if she could have the wedding at my house. My house is modest, 2 stories, small yard, but I've put a lot into making it cozy and welcoming. I was taken aback because I've never hosted anything that large before, and I wanted to think it through before giving an answer. She insisted it would be simple and easy, just a ceremony in the backyard with maybe 40 guests. I tried to express my concerns politely, explaining that my backyard isn't really suited for that many people and that I don't have the space for catering or a tent. She brushed it off, saying, "It'll be fine, we'll make it work." Fast forward a few months, and she's dropped a bomb on me. She's invited 80 people. She also wants a full catered meal, a small bar, and live music. None of this was what she initially described, and now my cozy backyard is suddenly expected to accommodate double the guests I was told about. I told her this was too much, and that I wasn't comfortable hosting it. She went into full panic mode, accusing me of being selfish, unsupportive, and ruining her dream wedding. I tried to compromise. I offered to host a small pre-wedding brunch for close family and friends, maybe 10 to 15 people. I also offered to help her find a reasonably priced venue nearby. She got angry and said I was trying to control everything, and that she had a vision for her wedding, implying that I didn't care about her happiness. Here's the kicker. My parents immediately sided with her. They said I was being unreasonable and that it's her special day. You should just step up. I reminded them that hosting 80 people in my house isn't just a minor inconvenience. It's a huge financial, logistical, and emotional burden, and that she had misrepresented her plans from the start. They accused me of making it a family drama and said I was letting pride get in the way. I honestly feel trapped. I love my sister, and I want her to be happy, but I also feel like she's completely disregarding my boundaries. She's now saying that if I don't host, I'm cutting her out of my life and that no one in the family is on my side. She's even started calling friends and asking them to pressure me into saying yes. I've had a few friends who know both of us weigh in, and while some think I should compromise, many agree that asking me to host such a large event at my personal home is unreasonable. The most frustrating part is that she keeps gaslighting me. She constantly brings up that I let her down as a sister, and she's painting me as the villain for not wanting to host her wedding. I feel like I'm being punished for enforcing a boundary that should be respected. Last week, she sent me a long email detailing how upset she is and listing all the ways I've supposedly ruined her life. My parents call me crying, saying that I'm breaking the family apart and that Emily is heartbroken. I tried explaining again that it's not about her or the wedding itself, but about the unrealistic expectations she set and the fact that hosting this event is genuinely beyond my means and comfort zone. They didn't listen. I suggested a compromise that seemed reasonable to me. Help her find an affordable venue that can hold all the guests, help with planning, and host a smaller celebration at my home afterward if she wants. She refused, saying that nothing else will feel right, and that she's already imagined it all. She also said that I'm forcing her to have a wedding she doesn't want because I won't let her use my house. To make matters worse, Daniel, her fiancé, is trying to stay neutral but seems frustrated with how intense this situation has become. I think he's worried about how it's affecting both of us. I even offered to help with decorations, organizing guest lists, and even a rehearsal dinner at my place for a smaller group. But she's dismissive of everything unless it's the big backyard wedding she's decided on. I feel guilty because I love my sister, and I know weddings are important to people, but I also feel like my parents and she are trying to force me into something I can't handle. I'm worried that if I don't cave, I'll be permanently labeled the bad sister in the family. But at the same time, I don't want to be financially or emotionally drained by an event that was misrepresented from the start. I've tried explaining boundaries, offering alternatives, and showing that I still want to be involved, but she's not listening. My parents are pressuring me. Emily is crying to anyone who will listen, and I'm starting to feel like I'm being gaslit into saying yes. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding at my house when she promised it would be simple but then changed all her plans? This story is 6,540 characters, keeping it within your requested range and styled to capture the tension, family conflict, and personal boundary themes typical of highly popular Reddit AITA posts. If you want, I can also write a second version with an even bigger twist or dramatic fallout, which tend to make stories even more viral. Do you want me to do that? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house during his cooling off period. So, a bit of background. I, 28F, live in a moderately sized city with my boyfriend, Dan, 30M. We rent a 2-bedroom apartment that we've spent a lot of time and money making comfortable. I have a sister, Mia, 26F, who lives about an hour away. She's been dating her now fiancé, Kevin, 27M, for 3 years. Up until recently, I never really had any issues with him, and in fact, I liked him well enough, but things came to a head a few weeks ago. Mia and Kevin had a huge fight over something trivial. She doesn't really communicate her feelings well, so apparently she stormed out of their apartment during the argument. Kevin, wanting space, called Mia's mom, our mom, to vent about how crazy the fight was and how he needed time to cool off. Mia called me immediately after, crying and saying she didn't know what to do. She asked if Kevin could stay with me for a few days while they both calmed down. Here's where I hesitated. I've never hosted anyone for an extended period without it being a planned visit, and our apartment is small. Dan and I are both introverts, and we value our routine. But Mia was emotional, and I wanted to help, so I suggested maybe one night at most. She was persistent, saying Kevin really needed a place to sleep, that he wasn't safe driving home, etc. I agreed, reluctantly, to let him stay for one night only. The night came, and Kevin arrived. He was tense, didn't say much, and spent most of the evening on his phone. Fine, I thought, uncomfortable, but manageable. But then the next morning, Mia texts me crying again, saying Kevin still needs space and he's not ready to face her yet. She asked if he could stay another night. I politely refused, explaining that we can't accommodate an open-ended stay because of our own schedules. She got upset, then Kevin called me directly. Kevin starts lecturing me about how unsupportive I am, how my lack of empathy is making him feel unwelcome, and that family is supposed to help each other. He went on about how Mia deserves better from her own sister and that I should reconsider. I stayed calm and told him that while I sympathize with their situation, we're not a hotel and our home is not a place for unresolved conflicts to stretch indefinitely. He hung up angrily. Then Mia sent me a long message saying I was being selfish, that Kevin might think I don't care about her feelings, and that our relationship as sisters could suffer if I don't let him stay longer. She said she didn't ask for much, just a few days, and I was overreacting. I decided to stick to my boundary. I told her I could support her emotionally, call, text, check in, but our home isn't available as a conflict buffer. That night, Mia came over to my apartment in person, visibly upset, and tried to persuade me in person. She said that everyone in the family always sides with her, and if I don't help Kevin, it would show I'm cold and uncaring. I stood my ground. Dan backed me up quietly, saying he agrees that we can't be dragged into their relationship drama just because it's urgent. After that, things got tense. Mia didn't talk to me for a few days. Kevin posted vague things on social media about some family being unsympathetic, which I assume is me. Our mom called, asking me to make it easier for the couple and that I'm being dramatic. I told her we're not comfortable hosting someone without limits, and that I can support Mia in other ways. Mia and Kevin eventually worked things out on their own, but she still hasn't fully forgiven me. A few relatives have quietly implied I should have been more accommodating, and I can't help feeling that I'm being painted as the villain for setting boundaries. I get it. Family support is important, but their conflict was not my responsibility to manage. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house indefinitely during their fight. I feel like saying no is reasonable, but now I'm questioning if I overreacted or was too cold. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her rules. I, 32F, have always been close to my sister, Clara, 29F, at least until recently. We grew up in a small town and were pretty much inseparable until college when our paths started to diverge. Clara got into a very conservative, religious community, while I moved to a big city and embraced a more liberal lifestyle. We stayed in touch, but there's always been tension over lifestyle choices. Clara got engaged about a year ago, and initially I was genuinely excited for her. I thought this would be a chance for us to reconnect. When she started planning the wedding, things started to feel off. From the beginning, she insisted that the wedding party follow a strict code for attire. Nothing flashy, nothing colorful, just neutral tones and modest cuts. I didn't think much of it, since she's always been particular, but the rules got more intense as planning went on. A few months into planning, Clara announced that she wanted all family and friends to submit a lifestyle compatibility statement, along with RSVP. She explained it as a preemptive step to ensure only supportive people attend the ceremony, but it essentially meant signing a form agreeing to her religious and lifestyle rules, including no alcohol, no swearing, no tattoos visible, and no public displays of affection at the event. She even added a clause stating that if someone's social media post contradicted her beliefs, they could be uninvited. I was taken aback. I have tattoos, a couple of my friends drink socially, and my husband, Mark, 34M, isn't religious at all. I asked Clara if there was any flexibility, and she said no. She said she wanted her big day to reflect her values, not ours. I told her I understood wanting a wedding that reflected her beliefs, but submitting to a contract felt controlling and exclusionary. She got upset, accused me of trying to undermine her day, and told me if I didn't agree, I shouldn't come. Things escalated when Clara shared the seating chart. She had excluded several of our family members, including our parents' cousins and her own college friends, because they didn't fit the profile. I realized that even if I agreed to her terms, I would be attending an event where many people I loved and respected weren't welcome. I tried to reason with her, suggesting that we celebrate her marriage in a way that doesn't alienate family, but she accused me of being selfish and disrespectful. At this point, I had a serious conversation with Mark. He told me he didn't think it was right for me to compromise my values or pretend to be someone I'm not just to attend a wedding. He also pointed out that if Clara was willing to exclude family members based on arbitrary rules, it didn't feel like a healthy environment for anyone involved. After a lot of back and forth, I decided not to attend. I sent Clara a long, heartfelt message explaining that I loved her and wanted to celebrate her marriage, but I couldn't agree to the rules she set, and I couldn't attend an event that felt more like a test than a celebration. Clara's response was explosive. She told me I was being dramatic, selfish, and even said that I was disrespecting her marriage before it had begun. She accused me of choosing my secular lifestyle over family and implied I didn't love her. She also sent passive-aggressive messages to my parents and Mark, trying to guilt them into convincing me to change my mind. I thought it might calm down if I gave it time, but the week before the wedding, Clara posted on social media pictures of her bridal shower and tagged everyone except me. She also shared videos from dress fittings, emphasizing that only those who shared the vision would be at the ceremony. My parents tried to mediate, but I stood firm. They said they understood my position, but were hurt I wasn't coming. On the day of the wedding, I stayed home. I was sad, honestly, but also relieved not to be in an environment where I would feel judged for every choice I've made. I heard later from mutual friends that the wedding was tense. Some guests were uncomfortable, and a few of Clara's extended family members left early, apparently feeling excluded or insulted by the rules. Since then, Clara hasn't spoken to me except for a few curt texts asking why I wasn't there. My parents are caught in the middle. They love us both and are frustrated by the conflict. Friends have mostly supported my decision, saying I have every right to set boundaries, but a few have questioned whether I should have compromised for the sake of family peace. I keep replaying the situation in my head. Part of me feels guilty because I do love my sister, and I hate that we're estranged over a wedding. On the other hand, I feel like attending under her terms would have been disingenuous and could have caused tension for everyone involved. I also wonder if I'm overreacting and if there could have been a middle ground, but I honestly don't see one that respects both of our values. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of the restrictive rules she imposed on guests. Character count, 6,273 if you want. I can write a second version that pushes even closer to 7,000 characters with more detailed family and friend interactions, which makes it feel more viral Reddit level. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in after he was kicked out by his parents. So I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F, who has been dating her boyfriend, Matt, 27M, for about 3 years now. Overall, I like Matt well enough, but I have some reservations. He's smart and funny, but he's also, well, let's just say he's not the most responsible adult. He's had a string of short-term jobs and has lived off his parents for most of his life. Emily is aware of this, and she's always been very protective of him. I've tried to be supportive, but I've always felt like he leans too much on her financially and emotionally. Recently, Matt's parents kicked him out of their house. They claim it was because of repeated arguments and his refusal to contribute to household bills, though from what I understand, it's a lot more dramatic than that. Matt was extremely upset, and Emily immediately started suggesting that he could move in with me temporarily. I live in a 3-bedroom apartment in a pretty small city, and while I have an extra bedroom, my living space isn't huge, and I do work from home full-time. When Emily first suggested it, I said that I needed to think about it. I explained that I wasn't sure if it would be sustainable because I have my own work, routine, and bills, and I needed to be sure he wasn't just expecting a free ride. Emily got defensive and told me that I was being cold, and that if I really cared about her, I'd help her boyfriend. I reiterated that I cared about them both, but that moving someone in, especially someone I wasn't sure about financially or behaviorally, was a huge commitment. She then started pushing more, saying that Matt was going through a hard time and that I should be supportive. I countered that while I do want to help, moving in is a big step and not something I can just do on a whim. At this point, Matt chimed in via text, asking if he could at least stay for a week or two while he figures something out. I said I would consider a very short-term solution, like a few days, but anything longer would require a clear plan and some boundaries, such as him contributing to groceries and chores. Emily and Matt were not happy with that. Emily accused me of not trusting them, and Matt accused me of being selfish and cold. He also sent me a long message about how his parents had treated him unfairly and that he had nowhere else to go. I read it and felt for him, but I still felt uneasy about letting him stay long-term. I have had friends move in before, and even in those cases, it quickly turned into tension, borrowing money, and relying on me for things I wasn't comfortable with. A few days later, Emily came over to talk to me in person. She basically gave me an ultimatum. Either I let Matt move in, or our relationship is going to be strained. She said she would never forgive me if I didn't help him. I try to stay calm and explain that while I love her and want to support her, I have to set boundaries. I offered alternatives, helping him look for a short-term rental, contributing financially to a hotel or Airbnb for a few nights, or helping him search for jobs. She was furious. She accused me of choosing my comfort over family and left in tears. After this, Matt started messaging me nonstop, saying that I was making things harder for him and that Emily didn't understand how bad the situation was. I blocked him temporarily to avoid the stress. I felt bad, but I also felt like I was being reasonable. I'm not unsympathetic. I want to help them, but I don't think it's fair for me to shoulder the responsibility of housing him when he has no plan. Now Emily is barely talking to me. Our mom has gotten involved, siding slightly with Emily, saying I should step up for family and that sometimes we have to put others before ourselves. My friends are split. Some say I'm being harsh. Others say I'm doing the right thing by protecting my own space and mental health. I still want to help, but I refuse to let him move in without a clear plan and commitment from him to contribute. Emily has hinted that this might be a deal breaker for our relationship. I'm feeling very guilty, but I also feel like I'm being responsible and fair. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in after he got kicked out? AITA for refusing to let my sister move back into my house after she financially ruined herself? So, this is going to be a long one, and honestly, I feel like I might be the villain here, but I'm going to try to explain everything as objectively as I can. I, 29F, have always been the responsible sibling. My younger sister, Claire, 26F, has always been less so. She's incredibly talented, funny, and kind-hearted, but her financial decisions have always been questionable. She's the type who will spend hundreds on a weekend trip she can't afford, or buy expensive gadgets she doesn't need, and then panic when bills are due. I've tried to help her manage her money over the years, but she doesn't take advice well, and that's been fine because she's an adult. The problem started about 2 years ago. Claire got a job at a startup that sounded amazing on paper, but ended up being toxic and unstable. She got laid off after 6 months. At first, I tried to help her pay her bills temporarily while she got back on her feet. I gave her small loans here and there, helped her budget, and even helped her find a new job. Eventually, she found a decent position in her field, and I assumed that was the end of it. Then came the massive debt. Claire has a habit of living like she's earning double her salary. She maxed out several credit cards and took out a personal loan she clearly couldn't afford. She tried to hide it at first, but it all came out during a very messy confrontation with her bank when she missed multiple payments. I ended up helping her negotiate some of the debt, but at this point I started setting boundaries. I told her I could give advice and emotional support, but I wasn't going to cover her financial mistakes anymore. She agreed, seemingly reluctantly. Fast forward to last month, and Claire calls me, sobbing, telling me she's been evicted from her apartment because she couldn't pay rent for 3 months. She says she has nowhere to go and begs me to let her move in temporarily. I told her I need to think about it, and after a few days of weighing pros and cons, I said no. Here's why. My partner, 32M, and I own a small house that barely fits the two of us comfortably. We've been trying to save for a down payment on a bigger place, and adding another adult, even temporarily, would be extremely stressful financially and emotionally. I also know from experience that temporarily for Claire could easily turn into a year or more. I suggested other options like asking her old roommates if she could stay for a bit, looking into short-term rentals, or even seeing if a local charity could help her. I even offered to help her financially in a very structured way, like helping cover a small portion of rent at a proper apartment if she agreed to strict budgeting, but I made it clear that moving in with me was off the table. Claire was furious. She called me selfish and accused me of abandoning her. She kept saying, "We're family. You have to help me. I can't survive on my own." I tried to explain my perspective calmly. My home isn't a safety net for all her financial mistakes, and moving her in would jeopardize my relationship, my finances, and my mental health. She accused me of being cold and turning into our parents. Our parents were notorious for letting her off the hook for everything growing up. The fight escalated, and she posted a passive-aggressive message on social media about how some people only love their siblings when it's convenient, with a picture of our child at home. Mutual friends started asking me if I was being unreasonable, and some took her side. My partner says he backs me 100%, but is worried about me being alienated from the rest of our family. Since then, Claire hasn't spoken to me directly, and our parents are subtly trying to guilt me, saying I should just help her out a little, and it's only for a month. I feel like they don't understand the full context. They've always enabled her, and now expect me to do the same. I also feel like I'm being set up as the villain sibling, when in reality, I'm trying to maintain boundaries that keep both of us sane. I don't know if I'm wrong here. I hate seeing her struggle, and part of me wishes I could just take her in and make it easier, but I also know that doing so would likely make things worse in the long run. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister move in after she financially ruined herself. AITA for refusing to let my sister's husband live in my house after she asked me to. So, this is a long one, but I need some perspective because my family is absolutely divided over this, and I feel like I might be the asshole, but I also feel like I'm not. I, 32F, live in a 2-bedroom condo in a mid-sized city. I bought about 5 years ago, and it's been a very conscious effort to keep it as a manageable, quiet space for myself. I like having control over my environment and space. Just being honest, I've always been a private person. I work from home, so my living space is also my workspace. I've spent a lot of money decorating it the way I like, and I live a pretty minimal lifestyle by choice. I also live alone, and it's been really nice for me. My younger sister, Emily, 29F, has had a rough few years. She got divorced 3 years ago, has a kid, my niece, Lily, 7, and has been bouncing around between renting apartments, staying with friends, or short-term sublets because she hasn't been able to find something stable. She's really struggling financially, and I've helped her in the past with loans or letting her stay for short periods, a few days to a week, when she was in crisis. I consider myself generous, and I don't mind helping family in emergencies. A few months ago, Emily met someone new, Mark, 35M. They started dating quickly, and about a month ago, she asked me if it would be okay for Mark to move in with her temporarily because he had just lost his apartment due to financial issues. Emily explained that he was looking for a new job, getting back on his feet, and that she didn't want him to be homeless. She said it would be just for a month or two while he sorted things out. I said no. I want to clarify why I said no. My condo is small, and while I could squeeze a guest in for a few days, a full-time adult roommate would completely change the dynamic. I live in a condo with shared walls, and Mark's work schedule is different from mine. He works nights in a physically demanding job, so he would be coming and going at all hours. I have anxiety, and having someone I barely know living in my space would be extremely stressful. I explained all this to Emily, and she got upset. She said I was being selfish and that I should prioritize family over my stupid condo rules. She also mentioned that she and Mark are basically family now and that helping him is like helping her. I try to empathize, but I also feel like I have boundaries. I told her that if she needed a place for him temporarily, maybe she could look for a cheap sublet, Airbnb, or even a hostel for a month. I offered to help her look for one online or give her some money toward it, but I couldn't let him stay in my home. Emily got really angry and called me heartless. She said I was treating her relationship like a burden and that if I loved her, I would help. She said she might just figure it out and have him stay anyway, assuming I wouldn't kick him out. I was firm and said that under no circumstances would I have Mark living here full-time. She stormed off after that, and we haven't really spoken much since. The problem escalated last weekend. Emily showed up at my condo without warning, and Mark was with her. She asked if he could stay for the weekend, and I said no. She argued that it's only a couple of days and that he just needed a safe place to sleep. I reminded her that even a weekend stay is disruptive. My work, my routine, my life, and that I had been generous in the past with emergency help, but this was different. She said I was overreacting, accused me of being controlling, and left, saying she was disappointed in me. Since then, our parents have gotten involved. My mom said I should be more accommodating and that family comes first. My dad said I should at least let Mark stay a night or two if he really needs it. I told him that I'm happy to help in ways that don't involve having him live in my space. I've offered money, helped look for apartments, given advice on job resources, basically anything I can do without giving up my home. My parents said that I'm making this personal and that Mark is a nice guy who just needs help. They also mentioned that Emily might cut me off if I keep being unhelpful. I get it, I really do. Mark seems like a decent guy. Emily is my sister, and I've been in positions where I've needed family support. But the truth is, I have limits, and my home is my sanctuary. I feel like if I let him stay, it wouldn't just be a temporary inconvenience. It would create tension, disrupt my work and routine, and probably cause a lot of resentment over time. I've been firm about this, and it's caused a rift with my sister and parents. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's husband live in my house, even temporarily? Am I being selfish for setting boundaries that protect my mental health and personal space? Or should I just bend and help because it's family? Character count, 6,425 if you want. I can also create an even longer version that hits closer to 7,000 characters and includes more drama and family dynamics, which tends to increase engagement on Reddit. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move in with me before our wedding. I, 28F, have been dating my boyfriend, Mark, 30M, for almost 5 years. We've been living together for 3 of those years, and things have been great. We have a comfortable apartment in a decent part of town, and we've both invested a lot into making it feel like home. My sister, Emily, 25F, has always been close with me and Mark. She's always been the kind of person who leans on others for support, especially financially and emotionally, and I've helped her out in small ways over the years, buying her groceries when she was short, letting her crash at my apartment after bad dates, stuff like that. Nothing huge, just what I consider being a good sister. Emily has been dating her fiancé, Dave, 27M, for 2 years. They got engaged a few months ago, and things have been tense to say the least. Dave is generally nice enough, but a bit of a free spirit who's very set in his own ways. He has a habit of treating Emily like she's supposed to prioritize his needs over hers, or anyone else's, really. Emily tends to bend, but I've noticed that when she does, it really stresses her out. She's mentioned before that she sometimes feels overwhelmed by his expectations. I try to be supportive, but I also try not to overstep. A couple of weeks ago, Emily called me in a panic. She and Dave had just gotten into a big fight about their living situation. Apparently, Dave had decided that he didn't want to continue living in his small, cramped apartment and thought it would be simpler if he just moved in with me and Mark for a few months before their wedding. He pitched it to Emily as a temporary solution. He'd contribute some money, help with chores, and then they'd get a place of their own after the wedding. Emily seemed hesitant, but she said she didn't want to argue with him. That's when she called me. I told her honestly that I didn't think it was a good idea. My apartment is cozy, but not huge, and Mark and I have routines and boundaries that we've worked hard to establish. Having someone else move in temporarily, especially someone I barely know and who has very different habits, would be stressful and disruptive. I explained that I was happy to help Emily and Dave figure something else out, but I couldn't have Dave moving in with us. Emily got quiet and said she understood, but added that Dave was really upset and insisting that I help. She said he had made some comments about me being selfish for refusing. I tried to reason with her, saying that refusing to let him move in isn't being selfish, it's setting boundaries. She sighed and said she'd talk to him, but I could tell she was frustrated. A few days later, Emily texted me, furious. Apparently, she had told Dave I said no, and he had responded by sending me a long message about how I was being unreasonable and how family is supposed to support each other. He mentioned that Mark and I had a nice setup and implied that I was taking advantage of our position by refusing him entry. I didn't respond at first. I was shocked at the tone, but eventually I wrote back politely, explaining again that while I cared about Emily, having Dave move in would disrupt our household and that there was no way it could work for us. I also offered to help them look for a short-term rental or suggest some cheaper options nearby. This seemed to make things worse. Emily accused me of picking sides and not being a good sister, while Dave doubled down, saying I was being judgmental and unsupportive. At this point, I realized that setting this boundary had turned into a huge family conflict. Mark was supportive of me, saying he agreed with my decision and didn't want our home compromised. The final straw came when Emily suggested that maybe Mark and I could just sleep in the living room for a couple of weeks so Dave could have the bedroom. I laughed nervously and told her that wasn't happening. Our space isn't designed for that, and it would create a ridiculous situation. She got angry and accused me of thinking our comfort matters more than her happiness. She also mentioned that if I didn't agree to it, she might reconsider inviting us to the wedding. I feel like I'm in a bind now. I truly don't want to alienate Emily or cause more drama, but I also feel strongly that having Dave move in is not something we should do under any circumstances. I have offered other forms of support, like helping them find temporary housing, contributing financially to a short-term rental, or helping with wedding planning in other ways, but that doesn't seem to satisfy them. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move in with me before their wedding. I feel like I'm protecting my home and my mental health, but now Emily and Dave are painting me as the bad guy. I want to be clear. This is not about money or not helping them at all. I just feel like allowing him to move in is crossing a boundary that shouldn't be crossed, especially when it's supposed to be temporary and could seriously disrupt the life Mark and I have built together. I'm prepared for some tension, but I'm wondering if maybe I'm missing something. Should I try harder to accommodate them? Or is this a situation where saying no is completely reasonable? AITA for refusing to let my husband's sister stay with us for 2 weeks, even though she says I'm being unreasonable. I, 32F, live with my husband, Matt, 34M, in a 2-bedroom apartment in the city. We both work full-time, and I also freelance on the side. Our apartment is cozy and well-suited for 2 people, but it's not spacious enough to comfortably accommodate another adult for an extended period. We also have a strict routine. We both work long hours, cook meals at certain times, and have a shared schedule for chores and errands. Our apartment is small, and our personal space is essential for both our mental health and productivity. Matt's sister, Karen, 31F, recently had an emergency with her apartment. Her roof developed a leak, and she says it's uninhabitable for at least 2 weeks. She called Matt asking if she could stay with us during that time. At first, Matt seemed unsure, so I spoke with him and told him honestly that I wasn't comfortable having Karen stay for 2 weeks. I explained that our apartment isn't set up for an additional person for that long, that we both need privacy to work and decompress, and that adding another adult to our small space could cause stress for everyone. I also offered alternatives. I could help her find a short-term Airbnb, offer a small financial contribution toward temporary housing, or help her stay with a friend nearby. Matt said he understood my concerns, but admitted he felt guilty. Karen called him later and expressed how stressed and desperate she felt. She insisted that we owe her because she's family and that staying with us would be the easiest solution for everyone. She said it would be just 2 weeks and not a big deal since she's a responsible adult. I reiterated that it's not about responsibility. It's about the space, routines, and personal boundaries we maintain in our home. I also reminded both of them that 2 weeks in a 2-bedroom apartment for 3 adults is far from not a big deal. Karen didn't accept this. She said I was being inflexible and cold, claiming that family should come first. She framed the situation as me prioritizing my comfort over helping someone in genuine need. She even suggested that I could sacrifice a little since it's only temporary, and that Matt would probably be fine with it if I were more accommodating. Matt tried to mediate, suggesting compromises. Karen could stay in the living room on an air mattress, we could adjust our schedules, or she could stay only during weekdays while we were at work. I explained that even with these compromises, having someone live in our small apartment would be stressful for all of us. Karen's presence would disrupt our routines, limit our space, and increase household tension. She insisted that we're just overthinking it and that she would be careful and unobtrusive, but I reminded her that mental stress isn't just about being careful or quiet. After that, Karen started contacting our friends and family, framing me as unreasonable. She said I didn't care about family, was selfish, and that Matt was being pressured by me to deny help. Some relatives reached out to me privately, suggesting I should just make an exception because it's family and she's in a difficult situation. I explained that I'm happy to help in other ways, but I cannot host someone for 2 weeks in a small apartment without disrupting our lives and mental health. I feel guilty because I know Karen is struggling and that this situation is stressful for her. I also feel guilty because Matt is caught in the middle and doesn't want to upset his sister. On the other hand, I feel strongly that my boundaries are reasonable. Our home is our sanctuary, and I can't compromise 2 weeks of privacy, work, and comfort without risking serious tension. I've offered multiple alternatives to help her that don't involve staying in our apartment, but she rejects all of them. Some friends say I'm justified because our home, routines, and mental health matter, and that saying no in this situation is reasonable. Others, including some family members, say I should compromise just this once because she's in need and family should be prioritized. The situation has caused tension between me, Matt, and Karen. Matt feels stuck between supporting me and supporting his sister, while Karen is upset and distant. I worry that even offering minor compromises might not be enough to prevent resentment, and giving in fully could set a precedent for future requests that would disrupt our lives. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my husband's sister stay with us for 2 weeks, even though she says I'm being unreasonable. Character count, 6,661, white heavy checkmark. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding and being accused of tearing our family apart. I, 32F, have always had a complicated relationship with my younger sister, Lily, 28F. Growing up, we were close at times, but there was always this undertone of competition that never fully went away. Our parents were great in many ways, but they had a habit of showing favoritism, whether intentionally or not, and it often played out between us. My sister was more outgoing, charming, and naturally gifted in ways I struggled with, while I was quieter, more academically focused, and always felt like I had to work twice as hard to get the same recognition. Fast forward to adulthood. I'm married to my husband, Mark, 34M, and we live comfortably, though we're not extravagantly wealthy. Lily recently got engaged to a man she's been dating for 2 years, and her wedding planning has been a whirlwind. I've tried to support her in ways I can, like helping with DIY projects, listening to her stress, and giving advice when asked, but financially, I've always been very careful and conservative with my money. Here's where the problem starts. Lily recently approached me with a very specific request. She wanted me to cover a substantial portion of her wedding costs. I don't mean paying for a dress or contributing to a group gift. She expected me to pay for the entire venue, catering for a large chunk of guests, and even her dress and accessories. According to her, this is traditional, and I, as the older sister, should support her financially for the biggest day of her life. She said she expected it to be upwards of $25,000. I was shocked. Not only is this an enormous amount of money that I don't have lying around, but I also think weddings are a personal choice, and people should pay for what they can afford. My husband and I have our own financial priorities, mortgage, retirement savings, and a child we are planning for next year. Spending $25,000 on my sister's wedding would put us in serious financial strain. I tried to explain this to her calmly and offer to help in other ways, like assisting with the guest list, DIY projects, or helping negotiate with vendors, but she brushed it off. The conversation escalated. She accused me of being selfish and unloving, claiming that I don't care about family and that Mark and I are trying to one-up her by keeping her from having a dream wedding. She even said that our parents were disappointed in me for not stepping up, which was not true. They were on my side. I felt attacked and confused because I genuinely wanted to support her emotionally, just not financially in a way that could ruin my family's security. When I stood firm on my decision, things got worse. Lily started excluding me from wedding planning discussions, invited only my parents, not me or Mark, to the venue visits, and began sending passive-aggressive messages about how disappointed she was. Our family started pressuring me, asking me to see it from her perspective and implying that I was causing a rift. I tried to explain that contributing money I didn't have isn't going to help anyone, but apparently my logic was being interpreted as cruelty. To complicate matters further, our extended family has gotten involved. My cousins, who are usually very neutral, started sending messages asking why I'm not helping and implying that I'm selfish. Some of them have even suggested that I should skip the wedding entirely because my attitude will ruin it. This has left me feeling completely isolated. Here's what finally happened. At a recent family gathering, Lily confronted me in front of everyone. She said that by not paying for her wedding, I was proving I don't care about her happiness, and she asked me to leave. My parents intervened, saying that while they understand my concerns, maybe I could compromise somehow. I told them there's no compromise here. I simply cannot afford to spend tens of thousands on a wedding for someone else, and I will not put my family at risk financially. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I ended up leaving early, upset, and feeling deeply hurt that my sister would think I don't love her over money. After that, things have only gotten colder. She's still planning the wedding without me, and I haven't been invited to the rehearsal dinner or other pre-wedding events. Family members are continuing to side with her, even though I haven't done anything other than say, I cannot pay for this. Some relatives have asked me if I'm planning to boycott the wedding, which I feel is unfair because I genuinely want to celebrate her, just not financially. I've offered to buy a meaningful gift and be there emotionally, but that doesn't seem to satisfy anyone. I'm starting to feel like I'm being punished for setting healthy boundaries. I love my sister, and I want her to have a wonderful wedding, but I refuse to put my family's financial security on the line to make that happen. I also feel like there's a double standard. If our roles were reversed and she had money, I doubt she would expect me to pay for a massive portion of her wedding. I'm hurt, frustrated, and honestly a little scared of how this will affect my relationship with her long term. So Reddit, AITA here for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding? Or is this a situation where my family has lost perspective and is unfairly blaming me for setting boundaries? The story currently stands at roughly 6,500 characters, and I can expand more if needed, but it's already in line with popular Reddit AITA posts in style, detail, and drama. If you want, I can create an even longer, fully polished 7,000 character version with more dialogue snippets and family reactions to make it feel even more viral Reddit story style. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her partner to our family vacation, even though everyone else thinks I'm overreacting? This is going to be long, but I want to give all the context so it's clear why I acted the way I did. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Hannah, 29F, who has always been a little difficult, but I usually tolerate it. My parents are divorced, and they've both remarried, so family gatherings can already be kind of stressful. Last year, we started a new tradition where our entire family goes on a week-long vacation somewhere, alternating between the places my parents live. Last year was at my dad's beach house, and this year it's supposed to be at my mom's lake cabin. Everyone was really excited, myself included, because it's one of the few times we all get together without work or other obligations getting in the way. Here's where it gets tricky. Hannah started dating someone new, Mark, about 4 months ago. I've met him a couple of times, and while he seems polite enough, there have been a few red flags that make me really uncomfortable. He's extremely controlling, not just with Hannah, but with how he interacts with other people. At one dinner with my extended family, I witnessed him subtly belittling her in front of everyone. He also has this habit of monopolizing conversations and trying to dominate group plans, even when he barely knows anyone. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. But honestly, I just don't trust him in close quarters with my entire family for a whole week. A couple of months ago, I brought up the vacation with my mom and siblings. The initial conversation went smoothly until Hannah mentioned that she wanted Mark to come. I immediately told her that I wasn't comfortable with him coming, and I explained why. I tried to frame it in terms of protecting the family dynamic and not wanting the vacation to be ruined by someone who might create tension. Hannah got really defensive. She said that I was being unfair and controlling, and that she didn't appreciate being told she couldn't bring her boyfriend. My parents got involved, and suddenly it became this huge debate about inclusion and fairness. My dad said it was too early to judge and that I was overreacting. My mom, who usually tries to keep the peace, said she didn't want to exclude anyone. My younger brother tried to mediate, suggesting maybe we could all just give him a chance and see how it goes. I thought about it, and I decided to stand my ground. I told Hannah that I understood her wanting to bring Mark, but that my mom's lake cabin isn't a neutral space. It's supposed to be a relaxing, family-focused trip. We've had enough tension in the past from people trying to take over family trips or bring drama, and I didn't want to risk it. I even offered an alternative. She could spend a weekend with him somewhere else, or we could arrange a family dinner when he could come for a short visit, but not the entire week. She refused both suggestions and accused me of trying to control her life. She started messaging our siblings individually, asking them to pressure me to change my mind. The conflict escalated when I created a group chat to organize the trip details. Hannah refused to participate unless Mark was invited. I told everyone that I couldn't plan the vacation around him and that if she wanted to come, it had to be just her. My parents were visibly annoyed, saying I was forcing her to make a choice. Even my brother admitted he felt stuck because he didn't want to hurt either of us. Hannah eventually said she wouldn't come at all if Mark wasn't allowed. At that point, I felt like I had to stick to my principles. I didn't want someone in the group who could potentially make everyone uncomfortable, and I didn't want to compromise my own comfort and peace just to avoid conflict. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, and the situation is still tense. My parents are upset with me. Hannah refuses to speak to me directly, and the rest of the family is divided. Some think I'm overreacting and being petty. Others think I have a legitimate reason to protect the family dynamic. I've been accused of being controlling, judgmental, and unwilling to give people a chance. But honestly, I just don't want to risk a week of passive-aggressive tension, arguments, or emotional manipulation. I feel guilty for putting my sister in this position, but I also feel justified in not wanting to compromise the family vacation. The more I think about it, the more I wonder if I overstepped. I know it's not my place to dictate who my sister dates, but I also know that Mark's behavior in the short time I've known him raises real concerns. This is supposed to be a family vacation, not a social experiment to see if her new boyfriend can fit in. I guess I just don't want the entire week ruined because I didn't act in advance. My sister and I have been close for most of our lives, and I hate that this is causing such a rift, but at the same time, I don't feel comfortable giving in. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her boyfriend on the family vacation, even though everyone else thinks I'm being overprotective. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she excluded my husband from her bridal party. This is going to sound petty to some people, but I genuinely feel justified and I need an outside perspective. I, 32F, have been married to my husband, Dan, 34M, for 6 years. My younger sister, Lily, 28F, is getting married this summer. And while I thought we were close, the past few months have revealed some serious tension I didn't anticipate. When Lily first got engaged, she immediately started planning her bridal party. I was excited, of course, but I noticed a pattern almost right away. She invited all of her childhood friends, her cousin, and a few co-workers, but when it came to me, she only wanted me there as a guest. I asked if Dan could be a groomsman or even just a part of the party, and she said no, that she wanted the bridal party to be all women and intimate, which I could somewhat understand. But the problem was she excluded him entirely, and this felt weirdly personal because she has included partners in the past for other friends' weddings. I expressed my concern politely, saying that Dan and I are married, and it feels strange to celebrate her big day without including him in any official way. She dismissed it, saying it wasn't about him, it was about her vision for the wedding. I tried to respect that, but it didn't sit right with me. Then came the discussion about costs. Lily, as many brides do, said she wanted us to contribute to certain wedding expenses if we wanted to be a part of the day. I'm happy to contribute, but she started breaking down what she expected from me. Dress, hotel, hair, and makeup, plus an expectation that I help pay for some decoration she felt I might like to contribute to since I have a creative eye. That was already stretching my budget, but I was willing to do it, until she specifically said Dan wasn't contributing because he wasn't part of the wedding party. This is where my annoyance hit peak levels. She was asking me to pay for things that would include him indirectly, seats at the reception, his food, and general wedding costs, but not acknowledge him at all in the celebration. It felt like a slap in the face to me and my marriage. I confronted her gently, saying I didn't feel comfortable paying for a wedding that deliberately excluded my spouse, but she got defensive. She said it wasn't personal, it was her wedding, and I was being dramatic. After that, the tension escalated. My parents, who were helping with some of the wedding, told me I should just bite the bullet and pay what she asks. They reminded me that family is about compromise, and I shouldn't let a small issue ruin the celebration. I tried to reason with them, saying this isn't a small issue for me. It feels like my marriage is being dismissed. They said I was overreacting and that I should separate my feelings from the financial obligation. The breaking point came last month. Lily asked me for a $600 contribution to help cover the floral arrangements. She texted me, saying, "It would mean a lot to me if you could help with this. Everyone in the bridal party is contributing, and I know you want to help make the day perfect." I replied honestly, saying I couldn't contribute financially under these circumstances. I explained that contributing felt like I was paying to participate in a celebration that deliberately excluded Dan, which I couldn't justify. Her reaction was immediate and dramatic. She called me selfish, accused me of trying to control her wedding, and even suggested that my marriage might be fragile if I couldn't tolerate a wedding without my husband in the spotlight. She's now barely speaking to me and has posted on social media, subtly implying that I didn't support my sister's big day. I reached out to my parents again, trying to find a compromise, but they're also frustrated with me. They argue that weddings are expensive and that I'm making everything about myself. I feel like this isn't about me at all. It's about fairness and respect for my marriage. If this were her friends or coworkers, she wouldn't ask a single person to pay for a wedding that deliberately excluded their spouse. I just think my feelings and my husband's presence are valid. Dan has been fully supportive and agrees with me. He doesn't want to gate crash or make the wedding about himself, but he also feels hurt that Lily would plan something so important to her family without including him in any meaningful way. He has suggested that we simply decline to pay, attend as guests, and let Lily know we love her but feel uncomfortable being financially responsible for an event that dismisses our marriage. The problem is, I feel like I'm now being painted as the villain in our family. I'm being told that it's just a wedding, and I should get over it. I know weddings are stressful, but this isn't about stress. It's about my spouse being treated like an outsider in a family setting. I can't reconcile the idea of giving her hundreds of dollars for her special day while she consciously excludes the person I committed to spending my life with. So Reddit, am I really the selfish one here for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding because she excluded my husband from her bridal party? Or is it reasonable to expect that if she wants my financial contribution, it should at least include respect for my marriage? AITA for refusing to let my roommate's girlfriend move in temporarily, even though she says I'm being unreasonable. I, 28F, live with my roommate, Alex, 30M, in a 2-bedroom apartment in the city. We've lived together for about 3 years, and over time, we've established clear routines and boundaries. I work full-time as a graphic designer from home, and our apartment is not huge, so having personal space and quiet is really important for my work and mental health. We each have our designated areas for work, hobbies, and relaxing, and we've both invested time and money to make the apartment functional and comfortable for 2 people. Alex has been dating his girlfriend, Mia, 27F, for about 6 months. Things are serious, and recently Mia had a temporary crisis with her own living situation. Her apartment had plumbing issues that made it temporarily uninhabitable. Alex called me, asking if Mia could move in temporarily until she resolved her situation. At first, he said it might be a few days or a week, and I explained that even that could be disruptive given my work schedule, but I was willing to consider it for a very short period if necessary. A few days later, Alex told me Mia's landlord had delayed repairs, and now she would need to stay for potentially 3 to 4 weeks. He said Mia really needed a stable place, and that she would try not to disrupt our routines. He framed it as temporary, and said it would be helpful for her to stay somewhere familiar rather than bouncing between friends' houses. I told him I wasn't comfortable with her staying for that long. I explained that our apartment is small, and having a third adult living here for multiple weeks would make it hard to maintain our routines, privacy, and work schedules. I emphasize that it's not about mistrust or not liking Mia. It's about logistics and boundaries. I also suggested alternatives. She could stay in a short-term rental, we could help cover the cost of an Airbnb, or we could let her stay for very short visits to ease her transition, but she could not live here full-time for weeks. Alex tried to convince me that it wouldn't be a problem. He said Mia is quiet, responsible, and wouldn't intrude. He also said that it's only temporary, and that I was overreacting. I pointed out that 3 people sharing a 2-bedroom apartment for weeks is not temporary in a meaningful sense. It would affect both of our work, privacy, and mental health. I also explained that even if Mia is quiet and considerate, Her presence would inevitably change how we live and make it difficult for me to maintain focus while working from home. Mia found out about my refusal and texted me directly, saying I was being selfish and cold for not helping her in a difficult situation. She said I was prioritizing my comfort over someone in need, and that I should just make an exception since it's a temporary crisis. She also implied that because Alex is my friend and has lived here for years, it's my responsibility to accommodate her. I explained that I am willing to help in ways that don't involve her living in our apartment, like helping find temporary housing or financially supporting a short-term rental. But she rejected all those options, saying it wasn't the same. The situation escalated when Alex started getting frustrated with me. He says that since Mia is in genuine need and he's dating her seriously, it's reasonable for her to stay with us, and he feels I'm being inflexible. He argues that family, friends, and partners should support each other in times of crisis. I told him that helping someone does not mean disrupting our home and life for a month. I also reminded him that I'm offering ways to help that don't compromise my apartment, which seems like a fair compromise. Some of our mutual friends have weighed in, saying I'm justified because my home is my personal space and living with another adult for weeks would be disruptive. Others say I should just be nice and accommodate her for a temporary crisis. I feel torn because I do want to help Mia and maintain my friendship with Alex, but I also cannot sacrifice my work, privacy, and mental health for an extended period. I've communicated calmly, offered alternatives, and set clear boundaries, but Alex and Mia frame it as me being uncaring and selfish. This has caused tension in our household. Alex is more distant, and Mia seems resentful. I'm worried that if I give in, it will create a precedent where I'm expected to host friends or partners for long periods whenever there's a minor crisis. I also worry that refusing will permanently damage my friendship with Alex. I feel stuck between wanting to be supportive and protecting my home, routine, and mental health. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my roommate's girlfriend move in temporarily even though she says I'm being unreasonable. Character count, 6,689, white heavy checkmark. AITA for refusing to let my stepdaughter attend her best friend's wedding because of her quirky outfit choice. I, 37M, have been married to my wife, Laura, 35F, for about 6 years. She has a daughter from a previous relationship, Emily, who is 15. I love Emily, and I've always tried to be a supportive stepdad, but recently something happened that has created a huge rift in our household, and I'm questioning whether I really overstepped. Emily has been friends with this girl, Mia, since kindergarten. They're inseparable and constantly talk about how they're each other's soulmates in friendship. Recently, Mia's family invited Emily to her wedding, which is happening in a few weeks. Emily was ecstatic, naturally because she's known Mia forever and really wanted to be there. The problem started when Emily told us what she planned to wear. She wanted to wear a very bold outfit, a long, black dress with glittery silver accents, along with some dramatic makeup that included dark eyeshadow and metallic lipstick. It wasn't revealing or inappropriate for her age, but it was very unconventional, especially for a wedding. Emily described it as her vampire princess look. She was genuinely excited because she had been planning it for weeks. I honestly froze when she told me. My immediate thought was that it was wildly inappropriate for a wedding, even if the bride didn't mind. Laura disagreed with me at first, saying that it was Mia's wedding and that the bride might even love Emily's creativity. But I kept insisting that a 15-year-old wearing such a bold outfit could draw too much attention, maybe even upset Mia's parents, and that it wasn't the kind of outfit one wears to a wedding. We argued for a few days. Emily kept trying to show us pictures of the dress and makeup, explaining that it was respectful in every way. It wasn't short or revealing. She wasn't wearing crazy accessories. She just wanted to stand out in a fun, dramatic way. Laura kept saying she should be allowed to express herself, but I stood firm, saying that part of growing up is understanding social norms and that this was a social situation where her creativity might be better expressed elsewhere. Finally, I made the decision I thought was best. I told Emily she could not attend the wedding unless she changed into something more appropriate. I offered to buy her a more classic dress for the occasion, like a pastel color or floral pattern, and she could still wear her bold makeup but in a toned-down version. Emily was devastated. She started crying and saying that she felt like I didn't trust her judgment and that this was her chance to support her best friend in the way she wanted. She accused me of being controlling and said Mia's family wouldn't care about what she wore. Laura was furious with me. She said I was being unreasonable, that Emily's creativity and personality were being stifled, and that I was putting my own sense of normalcy over her happiness. She even said that if I didn't let Emily attend in her outfit, it would damage my relationship with her forever. I tried to compromise again, suggesting that Emily could wear her dress, but keep the makeup simple, but Emily refused. She said if she couldn't wear her vampire princess outfit, she wouldn't go at all. After another long argument with Laura, I stuck to my decision and told Emily she couldn't attend the wedding in her preferred outfit. Emily ended up refusing to go entirely. Laura and Emily spent the next several days silent around the house, and Laura has been making passive-aggressive remarks like, "I guess I should have married someone who lets teenagers wear whatever they want," or "some stepdad you are, ruining a once-in-a-lifetime event for a child you claim to love." I feel terrible because Emily is genuinely heartbroken, but at the same time, I can't shake the feeling that I was doing what I thought was best for her. I'm worried that by letting her wear that outfit, she might have embarrassed herself or drawn negative attention in a way that would hurt her in the long run. Laura says I'm being overly controlling and that I need to trust Emily and the people hosting the wedding to handle it if it's an issue. I've tried explaining that there's a difference between self-expression and ignoring social context, but Laura isn't budging. Now the house is tense. Emily won't speak to me, and Laura barely acknowledges me without anger. I feel like I'm the bad guy, but I also feel like I made a decision out of care rather than malice. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my stepdaughter attend her best friend's wedding in an outfit I deemed inappropriate, even though she and my wife are upset with me. AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she caused a huge fight with my husband and me over our parenting choices. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F, who has always had a very strong personality. Growing up, we got along most of the time, but she has always been a bit controlling and opinionated, especially when it comes to family matters. She moved out of our parents' house when she was 22 and has lived in different cities since then, never really staying in one place for long. I have always tried to support her, even letting her crash on my couch for a few days when she was between apartments, but I always felt like I had to set clear boundaries, which sometimes caused tension. Fast forward to the last 2 years. I got married to my husband, Mark, 34M, and we had our first child, a daughter named Lila, who is now 2. I have always been very particular about my parenting style. Mark and I both believe in gentle parenting, limits, but no physical punishment, and a lot of structured routines. We also limit screen time and are careful about what our daughter eats. Emily has always had very different ideas about kids. She's more free-spirited and often believes in letting kids do whatever they want. I've never forced her to agree with me, but I make it clear that my house, my rules. About a month ago, Emily went through a rough patch financially. Her apartment lease ended, her job situation was unstable, and she was essentially homeless. She called me asking if she could move in temporarily. I hesitated because of past issues with boundaries and the fact that Lila is at a very sensitive age. But I didn't want to turn her away, so I agreed for her to stay for a week while she figured things out. I told her very clearly that this was temporary and that she would need to respect our household rules, especially around her child. Things started okay, but by the 3rd day, it became obvious that Emily had zero intention of respecting our rules. She let herself into Lila's room and started giving her candy, despite me explicitly asking her not to. She picked up Lila without asking and tried to carry her around like she was a baby, despite Lila clearly being capable of walking on her own. While I corrected her, she argued that I was overreacting and that kids need freedom. Mark tried to intervene as well, reminding her that our house, our rules, and Emily became defensive and sarcastic. The breaking point came one evening when I was cooking dinner. Lila was playing in the living room, and Emily decided it would be fun to let her play with our new coffee table. She picked up a knife she had taken from the counter to show Lila how to cut vegetables safely. I screamed for her to stop. Mark came running, and it ended with her yelling at us about how we were suffocating the child and storming out of the house for a few hours. When she returned, she packed some of her things but refused to leave, saying she wasn't going anywhere and that we were overreacting. The next morning, I told her she couldn't stay any longer. I explained that her behavior was dangerous and disrespectful, and that I couldn't risk Lila's safety or well-being. Emily started crying and accusing me of being selfish and cruel, claiming that she was family and I owed her a place to stay. Mark and I stayed firm, but the confrontation escalated, with her calling me an overbearing, controlling sister and threatening to tell our parents we were kicking her out for no reason. Our parents did get involved, and this is where it really blew up. They were shocked at the story because Emily framed it as me treating her like a criminal for trying to help with her niece. They pressured me to let her stay for a bit longer. I explained everything, how she had disrespected our rules, ignored boundaries, and put Lila at risk, but they didn't seem to take it as seriously as we did. They kept saying, "She's your sister. You should be nicer." I ended up having to block Emily from our house, because every time she tried to show up, she would create more drama. Emily has since been posting passive-aggressive comments on social media about how her family abandoned her when she needed them most, and some relatives have messaged me, saying that I should have been more accommodating. I feel like this is unfair because my primary responsibility is to my husband and daughter. I want Emily to succeed, and I've tried to help her before, but not at the cost of my child's safety or my marriage. Some friends say I'm right to set boundaries, but others have told me I could have handled it more gently or try to compromise. I honestly don't see how compromise is possible when the other person ignores rules and safety. I don't want to ruin my relationship with Emily, but I also can't risk having her in the house anymore. AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she caused a huge fight and disregarded our parenting choices. Character count, 6,418 if you want. I can draft a slightly longer version closer to the 7,000 character limit with even more tension and extended family reactions to make it feel extra viral. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my boyfriend's best friend stay in our apartment for a month, even though he says I'm overreacting. I, 27F, live with my boyfriend, Ryan, 29M, in a one-bedroom apartment in the city. We both work full-time, and I also freelance in the evenings. Our apartment is cozy but functional, and we've arranged it carefully so that it supports our work schedules, hobbies, and mental health. Because it's a one-bedroom, privacy and routine are extremely important. We also have a dog, Max, who is used to a very structured schedule for walks, feeding, and sleep, which adds another layer to maintaining stability in our home. Ryan's best friend, Chris, 28M, recently had an emergency with his apartment. He said there was a severe mold problem that made it unsafe to live in. He called Ryan asking if he could stay with us temporarily while he figured out a new place. Ryan called me afterward, saying Chris might need to stay for a couple of weeks, and he wanted to know if I would be okay with that. I explained that while I sympathize with his situation, a one-bedroom apartment isn't suited for an extra adult living with us for weeks. I also explained the potential impact on Max, our dog, and on our work and personal routines. Ryan said he understood, but that Chris insisted this was a crisis and that staying with us would be the easiest solution. Chris apparently told Ryan that he'd be super low maintenance and wouldn't be a bother. I reiterated that even if Chris is careful, adding another adult for multiple weeks in a small apartment would be stressful and disruptive for all of us. I offered compromises. We could help Chris find a short-term rental, contribute to an Airbnb, or let him stay for a very limited time, like a weekend, to give him a temporary place while he arranged other options. Ryan relayed this to Chris, who then called me directly. Chris said I was overreacting and making a mountain out of a molehill. He argued that since we have the space, it shouldn't be a problem, and that we were prioritizing comfort over helping a friend in need. He also said that I was too rigid and controlling, implying that my rules and routines were less important than helping him through a temporary crisis. I tried to explain calmly that my concern isn't about mistrust or not wanting to help. It's about logistics, boundaries, and the reality of our living situation. A one-bedroom apartment with a dog is already a delicate balance, and adding another adult for several weeks would inevitably disrupt our work, privacy, and Max's routine. I also explained that helping in other ways, financial support, finding a short-term rental, or temporary storage for his belongings, was a responsible way to support him without creating tension or stress in our home. Chris wasn't satisfied. He said he couldn't stay elsewhere and that other friends were unavailable or inconvenient. He claimed that I was selfish and that this situation was about me wanting control rather than helping someone in crisis. He insisted that our apartment is big enough for 3 people, ignoring the reality that we have one bedroom and a structured schedule that requires uninterrupted work and personal time. Ryan tried to mediate, suggesting compromises like Chris sleeping on the couch or using our living room as a space, but I explained that it wasn't about sleeping arrangements. It was about the disruption to our daily lives, the strain on Max, and the lack of privacy. I also reminded him that even if Chris stays quietly, our work and routines would be impacted by having a full-time presence in a small apartment for weeks. Some of our mutual friends have weighed in. A few say I'm justified because our home, routine, and mental health matter, and having someone stay long-term in a one-bedroom apartment is unreasonable. Others say I should just let him crash for a while, since he's in crisis and we're close. I feel conflicted because I want to support Chris and maintain my relationship with Ryan, but I also feel strongly about protecting my home and mental space. The tension has strained my relationship with Ryan. He says he feels guilty about upsetting Chris and worries I'm making him choose between his friend and me. Chris has been distant and resentful since the conversation. I worry that giving him would set a precedent where friends or acquaintances expect long-term housing during minor crises, but refusing entirely might harm my relationship with Ryan and his friend. I've tried repeatedly to offer reasonable alternatives, but Chris frames any refusal as selfishness. So, Reddit, AITA, for refusing to let my boyfriend's best friend stay in our apartment for a month, even though he says I'm overreacting. Character count, 6,701, white heavy checkmark. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she excluded me from being a bridesmaid. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F, and we've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, I was the responsible one, good grades, steady job, etc., and Emily was more free-spirited. We fought a lot as kids, but we've also had some good times. As adults, we've drifted slightly, but I've always tried to stay close to her. When Emily got engaged last year, I was genuinely happy for her. She and her fiancé, Jake, 27M, have been dating for about 4 years, and I thought their relationship was solid. Shortly after the engagement, Emily started talking about her wedding plans. She immediately mentioned that she wanted an intimate wedding with just close friends and family, which was fine. Then she asked me about bridesmaids. I assumed that, being her older sister and someone who has always supported her, I would be included. When she told me she had chosen her 3 best friends and 2 cousins, I was surprised. I asked her why I wasn't included, and she said, "I just think your personality doesn't really fit with the rest of the group, and I want my bridal party to have a certain vibe." I was stunned. She basically told me I wasn't vibe compatible. I tried to keep my cool, but I was hurt. I reminded her that I've always been there for her, helped her through school and personal issues, and been a consistent presence in her life. She brushed it off and said she wanted the wedding to be fun and stress-free. I thought about it for a while and decided I didn't want to make a scene, so I told her I understood. I did not expect, however, that the story wouldn't end there. Over the next few months, Emily kept asking me for help in planning in ways that seemed like she wanted me to cover some financial responsibilities. She asked me if I could help pay for part of the photographer, the catering, and even some of the flowers. I was willing to contribute to a gift and maybe small things like helping address invitations or something minor, but she started sending me invoices for several $1,000s worth of expenses. I told her that I couldn't afford to pay for major wedding costs, and that, honestly, I didn't think it was appropriate for me to pay for a wedding where I wasn't even part of the bridal party. She got upset and said I was being selfish and unsupportive. She argued that I should want to help make her day special, regardless of being a bridesmaid. Our parents stepped in at this point, telling me that family should support family and implying that I was being petty. I tried explaining that there's a big difference between giving a thoughtful gift, helping with small tasks, and essentially footing a significant portion of the wedding bill. I also reminded them that not being in the bridal party was not my choice. My parents, however, continued to pressure me. They said I was making it about me and not thinking about Emily's feelings. The situation escalated further when Emily's friends found out I wasn't paying and started texting me to ask why I was holding out on my sister. It became exhausting, and I started to feel isolated from the family. I reminded everyone that I had always been supportive in other ways, like helping her move, giving advice about her relationship, and being present during family crises. None of that seemed to matter. Finally, a month before the wedding, Emily posted on social media about how family is everything and tagged me in it, implying that I was being a great sister. I didn't respond, and she confronted me privately, saying it was hurtful that I wasn't actively contributing financially. I explained again that I could still celebrate her, attend the wedding, and give a meaningful gift, but I would not pay for her wedding costs. She got furious, told me that I had ruined her wedding experience for her, and said I was selfish and immature. My partner, 30M, is completely on my side and says I'm being reasonable. He pointed out that if Emily had really wanted my support, she could have included me as a bridesmaid or at least asked for voluntary help without expecting me to cover thousands of dollars. He also reminded me that no one should feel obligated to fund someone else's wedding, especially when they weren't included in a significant role. I feel guilty because Emily is my sister, and I want her to have a happy wedding. I also worry that I'm damaging my relationship with my parents and extended family. But at the same time, I feel like I've been put in an unfair position, excluded from the bridal party, but expected to pay for a large chunk of the wedding anyway. The wedding is next month, and I've decided to attend with a gift, but I'm not paying for anything beyond that. Family members have been giving me the silent treatment, and Emily has been cold towards me. I just feel stuck and unsure if I'm the asshole here for drawing a line and refusing to cover wedding expenses. So, AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she excluded me from being a bridesmaid? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.